my gosh.
It's Motzei Shabbos, Parshas Kisavo, and we have over here a really interesting character that we're going to be interviewing tonight. We're going to say, what is your name?
Yisrael Zev.
His name is Yisrael Zev. And what Jewish year are we currently in?
5784.
We have to ask the God, is that correct? So we're in the year 5784. This is Motzei Shabbos, Parshas Kisavo. And we want to know...
It's past Parshas Kisavo.
It's past Parshas Kisavo. What's the Parsha right now?
I need to sing the song of Devarim, and then I can figure it out.
Okay, so let's hear the song.
All
right, very cool. It's Parshas Vayelech. We're holding tonight the second Aliyah, Parshas Vayelech Nitzavim, 5784. The day, September 22nd, 2024. We're holding right now a little bit more than a week away from Rosh Hashanah, 5785. The Gemara Brachos Daf Ches Amud Aleph, it tells us, a person who works for a living, it actually means he gets pleasure from his own hands. Translated to mean he has a livelihood, which according to translation, it can mean anything. It can mean he's a doctor, he's a lawyer, but according to the actual words, it might not actually mean a livelihood, and it might actually mean, even if it does mean a livelihood, it might mean you actually have to do work with your hands. As the Tiferes Yisrael says regarding Yaakov Avinu, that the best job, the best thing to do for Parnasa is physical labor, says the Tiferes Yisrael. That by Yaakov Avinu, exactly what he did when he worked for Lavan, he did physical labor, and he goes through the other Parnasas and explains why they're not a good Parnasa. He said a doctor, chas v'chalila, should a person make money off doing a mitzvah. Torah learning, chas v'chalila, should a person get paid for teaching Torah. But there's an inyan to actually make money and to make your living from actually doing work with your hands. And he also says, chas v'chalila, should a person own a business? Now, chas v'chalila, be said the nisyonos of honesty. There's a lot of nisyonos involved, and therefore the best thing is to do what Yaakov Avinu did. That's what Tiferes Yisrael says, and it could very well be, that's another shot in this Gemara. It could be the Gemara saying that type of a person, the Gemara goes on to say, is on a higher level than a Yarei Shamayim, a higher level than a person who fears God. But even according to that Tiferes Yisrael, even if you say this Gemara is referring to someone who works for a living and he actually does work, there's still a major kasha on this Gemara. Because the Gemara doesn't say the one who's working has Yiras Shamayim. It just says that person's working. The other person has Yiras Shamayim. It doesn't tell us whether he's working or not working. But how could it possibly be a person who's working, regardless as to whether they have Yiras Shamayim or don't, is on a higher level, he's gadol, he's greater than the one who does have Yiras Shamayim? How could that possibly be? The Parish in the back says that really the Gemara is coming to exclude anybody who participates in Derech HaTevel, which means anyone in the modern kollel nowadays would also be considered as someone who's working from their own labor. And we explained what the pshat is that when someone's living a life of miracles, like of Shimon Bar Yochai, someone's living in a cave, they've been supported for 10 years on complete miracles, their level of emunah and bitachon is so high. Their level of Yiras Shamayim is so high. It's so high. But how much of that is their own bechira? It's almost like it's handed to them on a silver platter. They're forced into the emunah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing miracles for them each and every day. Of course they have a high level of emunah. And of course they have a high level of Yiras Shamayim. But the person who's working for a living, as we said, the person who's working, what the Gemara is speaking about is someone who also has Yiras Shamayim. He also has Yiras Shamayim, but his Yiras Shamayim is not on the same madrega as the person who who only has Yiras Shamayim, who's supported through miracles. The Gemara is saying the person who works for a living, even though he's on a lower level of Yiras Shamayim, but at least he does have some Yiras Shamayim. He is Gadol, he's greater than the one who's on a much higher level of Yiras Shamayim. And the reason is very simple. It's because he could deny, if he wants, he could deny HaKadosh Baruch Hu Chas v'Shalom. He could go ahead and he could say that the reason why he has money, the reason why he has food is because of his own work. He says, I have food because I worked at it. He doesn't have to believe that he turned to Hashem. Maybe at some point he does, but he believes it came from Hashem anyways. He davens to Hashem anyways. He davens to Hashem. He does believe it came from Hashem. That person is Gadol, that person's greater than the Yiras Shamayim who's supported through miracles. That Yiras Shamayim who's supported through miracles, that person is a much higher level of Yiras Shamayim. That's the Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, but that's not as great in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's eyes as the one who's working for a living and has some Yiras Shamayim. Now, we were looking at this Gemara from a perspective of Yiras Shamayim, but there's also other perspectives that a person could look at it from, where you could also see how a person could be greater if they're working. And Dovi pointed out one way you could look at it. Another way is Yishuv HaOlam. The world was made we're supposed to participate in the world. It could be HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to participate in the world that He made. That's something that He actually wants. So that could be another shot in the Gemara. It could be, we're not looking upon it as Hishtadlus versus Nisim versus Bitachon, our level of Yiras Shamayim, based upon what we're holding by Hishtadlus, but we're looking at it from a completely different angle altogether. We're looking at it from how much does the person participate in the world, what's called Yishuv HaOlam. When you think back to Rav Chaim Yosef Herbert, Zecher Tzadik Bracha, it's difficult not to think of this Gemara. That perhaps this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu had in mind. It's like with the closing words of what Rabbi Greenblatt said by the Haskara, that there's something so delicious. He wanted to say it regarding, you have a Talmud of Aaron Kotler. We may not run into Talmidim from Aaron Kotler anymore. His words are certainly not with overall, certainly not. But there's something very delicious about that, about those variables coming together. At Yiras Shamayim, it's very easy to envision when you envision someone like Rabbi Herbert on one side of the scale versus whoever you want to picture on the other side of the scale. It becomes much easier to understand the Gemara without looking at any parish at all in the back of the Gemara. It becomes much easier to understand what the Gemara means. That a person who works for a living, either they're working with their own physical hands, or they're working by participating in the teva of the world, or they're working just in Yishuv HaOlam, even from outside Parnasa. They could be teaching too. But that person is Gadol, that person's greater for possibly many reasons than the one who is just Yiras Shamayim without any of those things. Not participating in the world, not participating in Teva, and also not making a livelihood from their own hands. That's the person that I think of. We could think of many people, but for some reason when you think of Rabbi Herbert in that Gemara, it just, the Gemara flows to such an extent, it's almost like it's hard to even hear the question. Ezehu Asher, who's wealthy, Asamech Bechalko, one who's happy with his chelek. Shneimar says, Gia Kapecha Kisochel. This is mamish the pasuk. This is unbelievable. This is Rabbi Lazar Hakavar Aimer Hakina Atayva V'Hakavar Motzina Tza'adam Min Ha'olam. He said that lust, jealousy, lust, and honor remove a person from this world. He used to say, Hayoldim Lamos. The ones who were born are going to die. The ones who have died are going to be brought to life again. The ones who are brought to life are going to be judged. Leida lahodia ulihivada shuhu kel. So that one may know, make known, and have the knowledge that he is God. He is the designer, he is the creator, he is the discerner, he is the judge, he is the witness, he is the complainant, and that he will call to judgment. Blessed be he before whom there is no avera, no forgetting, no respect of people, nor taking of bribes, for all is his. And know that all is according to the reckoning. And let not your impulse assure thee that the grave is a place of refuge for you. For against your will you were created, and against your will you were born, and against your will you will live. Against your will you will die, and against your will you will give an account and reckoning before the King of Kings, the Holy One. Blessed be he. That finishes off Perek Daled.